just help enhance. People who are musicians are probably sitting there thinking, how's that happening? They probably don't care, they're just interested and they're curious. But most people in your congregation are going to be like, wow, that sounds really good. They have no idea actually why it sounds good. You know what I'm saying? So don't overthink the whole like, oh, is it going to be cheesy? It won't be. Unless it's just you up there, and maybe you're using a full track behind you. I'm sorry, we're getting off on a tangent here, but here's our first song, God Belongs. Let's do a second song, and we're going to do this one more realistic. Meaning, let's just say we're using this band here tonight. What would we use then, track-wise? Well, it might be an enhancement track, but let's make it a little harder. Let's use like a master. And let's just say we're going to do Great Things. So I'm going to right-click, rename, call this Great Things. And let's bring in the tracks. I'm going to bring in the cues first. And now let's just think about this. All right, I'm playing acoustic. We don't need the acoustic track. Background vocals. Let's actually just bring them in because I'm curious to hear what those sound like. We have a bass player, so we're good. Oh, our bass player just called in sick. We do not have a bass player. Choir, I'm actually going to add that in because actually sometimes it's fun to pump through the sound system to get people singing more. Drums, we have a drummer, we're good. Electric guitars, we do not have. Effects, we don't have. We do not have a keyboard player or percussion or synth. So I'm going to bring in all that stuff. So that's kind of how I would think about it. If you've got an electric guitar player, then you don't use electric tracks. Let's go ahead and press play
Intro,
and see
2,
what that sounds
3, 4.
Here we go.
Band, 2, 3, 4.
So that drum thing looks like it's coming in right through here. I don't want that because I think that's going to clash with the drummer.
Verse, 2, 3, 4.
Come and worship our King. I would also key this down. I'm going to show you how to key it down in a minute. So, Great Things. Let's go ahead and bring in one more song, and then we're going to keep moving. I'm going to show you some cool things you can do with this. We're going to do one more song. Let's do an enhancement track. We're going to end with Glorious Day. This is quite the set. All right, so cues, and then I'm just going to bring in everything on this enhancement. It's all electronic instruments. When you press play, you can also scrub ahead by just clicking and dragging
Intro,
the
2,
corner here.
3.
Drag it up.
Verse, 2, 3, 4.
I was buried beneath my shame. Right? Oh yeah. If there was a band on top of this. Oh man. Yeah, that would be cool. So now what you can do is you can reorder your set list if you need to. Oh, let's just do another song, but we're not going to have any tracks. It's a Revelation song. Our pastor just came up and said, can you close with a Revelation song? I don't have time to buy tracks, but sure, we'll do a Revelation song. You can reorder these songs by just clicking and dragging. So if you want to do Glorious Day, just move these around, move the set list around, and everything moves with you. You can also color code these if you want. So I can hold Shift on these tracks, right click, and choose from a color palette. This is kind of nice for if you're on stage and you just need to glance down at the computer and see what song you're on. I don't know. I think the colors help. And I'm a very OCD person, and so now that I've started, I need to finish this little adult coloring project. So make those, you can also make the track titles a color. So I make those, let's make them white. All right. And I feel like just visually it helps you kind of see like your song. Okay, so we've got 4 songs in our set. Now let's kind of customize a little bit. Let's talk about how do we change the key. So I was saying that what song is it? Great Things was pretty high. So I'm going to change the key. What we're going to use is we're going to use a feature in Ableton called warping. And warping is a way of time stretching audio, so speeding audio up, slowing it down without it losing its quality or its timing. And Ableton's very good at this because it's designed for DJs. So if you've ever heard 2 different songs, like a Taylor Swift song and like a Coldplay song, and somehow they've like meshed them together, they're using this software and warping them together. And worship leaders, we're using it to just change the key of the song. So what we're going to do is I'm going to right click. I'm going to double click on one of these audio files here. And I'm going to just show you what warping is. if I zoom in here, this shows you the individual audio file. There's a button here that says warp. When I press this button,
Intro.
when I press this button, it's going to analyze that audio file, and anywhere that you see that there's a downbeat, it added a marker, a little warp marker. And now it has a reference of where those downbeats are in the song. And once it's warped, you can change the key. Down here, there's a knob for pitch. And these go up half steps or down half steps. Now here's the trick though, is if you warp one file, you have to make sure you warp all of the audio files in that song. So I'm gonna hold shift on all of them, like this, and click on warp. So all the audio files have been warped, and now that it's been warped, I can press play,
Intro. 2,
and I'm gonna adjust
3,
the pitch
4.
of the song. So I'm gonna hold shift, select everything. In real life, you maybe only wanna adjust the pitch of instruments that
Band.
need to be
2,
pitched.
3, 4.
So I'm down 2 half steps down, up 1. So for me, I'll probably do
Verse 2, 3, 4.
let us worship our King. So that's how you do it, but I would probably only warp instruments that need it. So keyboards, sure, for sure. Not drums though, not percussion. You don't need to warp stuff like that. Let me show you how to warp again, really fast. The one trick, there's steps you have to follow to do this. You have to, for sure, set the tempo in the top left corner to be the tempo, the original tempo of the song. So that's where it's important to know, well, what is the tempo? So let's go back to Battle Belongs, and let's find it. I can't remember if it was up here. Here it is. It's 81. So I'm going to set the tempo to 81. And then, now we're going to click on highlight all of these tracks, hold shift, select, and hit warp. And now they're warped, and I can change the pitch to whatever I want it to be. What's really cool too is you can change the tempo, but before we get there, I just realized we don't have a click in this. And that's a problem, you need a click. In the top left corner, is the heat on in here? Good grief. Okay, so in the top left corner, this is your metronome control center. We're at 81, or whatever you want to be, you can click and drag it. This is your time signature, and this button turns the tempo or the metronome on and off. So let's turn it on and press play on Glorious Day.
Intro. 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so we have a metronome, but let me scoot ahead here. It's not in time with the track. And that's because the metronome is playing at 136 BPM, but Glorious Day is at what? 110. So we need to tell Ableton Live, hey, when we play this song, change the metronome to 110. And it's easy, you just click right here and type in 110, and you set the time, the tempo for that song. You can also do the same thing with time signature. Typically anything under 100, I like to add an eighth note. Just, it's easier for drummers to lock into a click that way. So instead of, you add in the eighth note, so it's just a lot easier to play with a click like that. 110 is good, so we'll leave it there. But you need to set that tempo for all these. So what was Great Things? Do you guys remember? Was it?
No, that was Battle
102,
Belongs.
yeah, sorry. Battle Belongs was 81. So let's actually fill that in before we forget. And then Great Things was 102. And you know what? I made a warping error when I did Great Things because I had not set the tempo correctly. So I bet you if I play Great Things right now, it's going to be completely
Intro. 2, 3,
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Interlude. 2.
It's not right at all. And I'm sorry guys, because that probably, so what I'm gonna do to fix it is I'm just gonna highlight all these, hit the warp button again, set the original tempo up here to 102, which it is, okay? And then let's press warp again. I might even have to bring in those files again, but let's see.
Intro. 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, so it's right now. You just have to rewarp it. Once it's been warped,
1, 2, 3, 4.
you can do any tempo you want. You can go to like, and what's amazing is actually it's all still in time with each other. So this is actually a bad example because I didn't bring in all the tracks that we need for that. Okay, let's try this one. So if you wanted to do this at 82, you could do it. Well, I guess that's pretty close. 70. Once it's worked, you can change this tempo to wherever you want it to be. So let's just say we're going to do this now in 70. Then we're at 70. So all that being said, is that if once you warp it, you can change the key or the tempo to whatever you want. Now, let's talk about audio routing. Like, how do we actually get the audio out of our sound system, out of your computer, into the sound system? So, because we've got our 4 songs set, we have this Revelation song, which, let's set the tempo for that. It's 72. Is it 6/8? Is it 4/4? Yeah, it's 4/4. All right. And so we just have a click, which I'm telling you guys, if there's one thing you could do to just enhance the sound of your band, if you walk away from this workshop with one thing, I want you to walk away with just get your band playing to a click. That's it. You don't even have to use Ableton Live to do that. You can go into the App Store and get like a free app to run click tracks. There's free apps that do that. Our app does it, Looptimist Prime. You could buy a metronome on Amazon for $20. Just play to a click. I'm telling you guys. Because what happens if you're not playing to a click, some people are speeding up, some people are slowing down, and things just start getting like muddled. And you're like, why does this just not sound like we're like in this together? Or the whole song is like gradually slowing down or gradually speeding up. It's just, if you are all locked into the same tempo, it will make your band sound better. That is the most practical tip I could leave you with, honestly. Get on a click. When you're on a click, it does not mean that like you've lost all spontaneity and like freedom. Like you have all the freedom you want in this. But this is the tempo of the song. And you could do, if you want to do 10 courses, you can do 10 courses. But just staying on tempo. Now, what's amazing is once you start doing that, it's kind of like learning to ride a bike. At first, you might get off it a few times, you might fall down. But once you've done it a few times, it's pretty easy to stay on the click, and the click starts to disappear. Really, like you also realize like, wow, why did I ever do this without this? Like, you never regret learning to ride a bike. Same thing with this. Like, you're like, we got to do this every time, and it starts to disappear. You don't even hear it. You might be like, oh, I don't want that blasting in my ear. You will not even hear it, really. So, we got 4 songs. How do we get the audio out of our computer into the sound system? So, I actually drew up a diagram that I'm going to show you. It's very simple. I'm going to show you the basic way and then a more advanced way. This way is what I would recommend if you're just getting started. So, you're going to use your headphone jack coming out of your computer. You're going to use a cable like this. You can get this at Amazon for like $8. It takes a headphone jack and it splits it though into 2 different outputs. And this is kind of audio 101. Some people think, well, you know, a headphone jack is only one output because it's one jack. But actually, your headphone jack is 2 outputs because it's a stereo signal. Kind of like when you plug in headphones, you've got the left side, you've got the right side. And so what we're doing here is we're taking a stereo headphone jack, splitting it to the left side and the right side. And we're going to pan all the click and the cues, 1st, 2, 3, 4, out of the left side. And we're going to put all the instrument tracks out of the right side. A little fun tip on these cables, red is always right. Right is red. So then you're going to get 2 direct boxes. You've got to probably get, this is what you plug your guitar into or a piano into. Your church probably has a few in the closet somewhere. You get 2 direct boxes, and the tracks are going to go to the audio mixer. Okay, to the audio mixer. And you have to tell and communicate to your sound team that your computer now is another member of your band. Like, they need to know to turn up the computer the tracks so that people can hear them. I can't tell you the number of times I go to a church and I know they're playing the tracks because I can see they are, but you can't hear them at all. And that's really usually because of a communication error. The worship leader like just rolled in, plugged in, we're using these, but they never communicated to the sound team that this is another instrument in your band. Your computer is your instrument. The other part is clicking cues. And this right here is probably the hardest mountain of all to climb for churches. You need to get that clicking cues to the band somehow. They have to hear it somehow. So here's my question. How many of you guys, by show of hands, have in-ear monitors at your church? Wow, a lot. It's like 90% of the room, maybe more. As I've been teaching this class, that number has gone up and up and up and up over the past 20 years. And it's because the technology has gotten so much cheaper and easier to implement. If you have in-ear monitors at your church, you've climbed the hardest mountain of all this. And because ideally, everybody in your band in a perfect world would hear that click in the cues. If you have in-ear monitors at your church, you probably know then how to route this. Somehow you need to get that to like as another instrument on your mixer, your Avion, or whatever you use. If you do not have in-ear monitors, which there were only a few, I think, all is not lost. You can do this. I did it for 5 years as a worship leader where I was leading worship and I never heard the click. All you do, ignore this is our app, but pretend that's Ableton Live, is you do the same thing here, but it changes here. What you do is you go to Amazon and you buy like a $30 2-channel mixer. Put it back by the drummer or whoever's keeping time. It could be a keyboard player, it could be an acoustic guitar player. If you have a drummer, it's the drummer. Put the mixer back by the drummer or the timekeeper. Put a pair of headphones into this mixer. Channel 1, you plug in the clicking cues. Channel 2, this is going into whatever like is a floor monitor, probably back by the drummer right now. And talk to your sound guy before you do this, because you want to make sure you're sending the right cable to it. You could blow out the mixer if you don't do it right. But you basically unplug the floor monitor and you plug it into this one, channel 2. So now your drummer can put headphones on, and on channel 1 they can adjust the volume of the click, and on channel 2 they can adjust the volume of whatever you were sending that floor monitor. You could technically do this for other people in your band, like the acoustic guitar player or the worship leader. It's kind of like a cheap in-ear monitor system. Yeah?
Real quick, how do you pan the click in Ableton?
I'm going to show you in just a minute. So, that's a really cheap way to do an in-ear monitor system, and it works though. Now, the only downside of this is that everybody in the band is going to have to know the arrangement of the song. But that might be what you're doing already, right? So the drummer hears the track, it says intro, 2, they just click you off, 4, and everybody's in. So the drummer has to click off everybody in this case. It's not the end of the world. Like I said, I did it for 5 years and it was totally fun. But in an ideal world, everyone would have in-ears. If you don't have in-ears, this is what you can do, and it works. Just get it to whoever's, if I were doing this now and I didn't have in-ears, I would probably do 2 of these, 1 to the drummer and 1 to the worship leader. So that at least the worship leader and the drummer are on the same page. Everyone else can just kind of hang on. Hang on for the ride. So that is that. That's a basic, if you're just doing this, just getting started, this is what I would do, okay? Let's talk about how to actually pan or like route the audio in here. So you're plugging into your headphone jack. This is my least favorite part of teaching this class because it gets a little like goofy. This is just Ableton Live being a way more advanced software than worship leaders need. I'll just say that. In the bottom right corner, there's a little teeny icon that says I/O. Stands for in and out. And when you press it, it opens up the in and out settings for every single channel. So let's kind of break this down. Over here, it says Q out. Q out, these are just weird things you have to remember. The click up here goes out of Q out. So that's your click. So I'm going to set the click to be output 1. Another thing you have to remember. 1 is left and 2 is right of your headphone jack. So the Q, or the click, is going to go out output 1, which is left. And now let's go to the band cues. We need to send that also to output 1. I'm going to go here to audio 2. This is for like if you're recording music, these two, so just forget these. This is more of like, where's the audio going? Where's audio going to? Well, right now it says it's going to the master. Where is the master? The master is over here. And right now it says the master is going to output 1 and 2, left and right. We can do this, we can solve this problem in 2 ways. One way is to go to the band cues and manually change this to be external output, output 2. So the band cues now are going out right. I'm sorry, this should be 1. Band cues are going out left, click is going out left. Downside with this is I would have to manually change all of these like this. External out, 2. So what I'm gonna do actually now is I'm gonna leave all the instrument tracks to be the master, and I'm just gonna change the master to be 2. So, in review, the click is going out 1, which is left. The band cues are going out 1, which is left. And all of my instrument tracks are going out of going to master, and the master is going out 2.
So they'll always be default to master?
Yeah. So it's kind of just a shortcut to save you time. So that's how you do audio routing. We're not going to be able to hear it in this room. I doubt it's like stereo.
Intro. 2,
But
3,
the click will be on the
4.
left side, and the tracks on the other side. You definitely don't want sending the click and the cues out to the sound system, because that would be kind of awkward for people. So here's what's cool though. So that's a basic way to route. Here's a little bit more of an advanced way, but not way more advanced. Is the problem with the way we're currently routing that audio is that I'm sending all of the instruments as one audio set. So the sound team, they're just like turning all the tracks up or all the tracks down. But a sound team usually like want more customization. They want to be able to adjust the tracks. Where right now, if they wanted to adjust the tracks, they would need to come up to your computer on stage and adjust the volumes, you know?
Could they screen share your Ableton?
They could screen share and do it, yeah, that would work. But another way to do it would be to use an interface. And you could use any interface, like a Personas, Focusrite, Motu. But I realized a couple years ago that worship leaders were buying these like $800 interfaces and only using the inputs on, only using the outputs on them. When really the money in those interfaces are the inputs, because those are meant for recording music. And worship leaders were just like, well, I'm just gonna use the outputs because that's what I need. So we developed our own interface that is just outputs, no inputs. You plug this into your computer with a USB cable, and it gives you 8 XLR outputs. So we combined an interface and direct boxes all into like one unit. And this is awesome because you can plug it into Ableton Live, and then just like I did here, if I plugged it in right now, and I went to this drop down, I would actually have 8 options here instead of 2. So I could say, I want my click to go out 1, and then I could be like, hey, you know what? I want my acoustics to go out output 2, and I want my bass to go out output 3. 3 would show up there if this was plugged in. And then you plug this into your snake on your sound system, bam, 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 with XLR cables, and you've got high quality line level signal. And your sound team now has the option to adjust the volume of all the guitars, or all the bass, or all the tambourines, whatever. So this is, I would say it's a more advanced way, but it's really actually not that much harder than what we did with the headphone jack. So this is called Track Rig. This is available at Loop Community if you guys are interested. You just go to our website, and click on products, and go to Track Rig. We've got it there, okay? The other thing I wanted to talk about, that's audio routing, is how do we control the tracks? This all comes down to preference. Let's just say, most of the time, people put a computer backed by the drummer or the keyboard player. I rarely ever see the computer backed by like the soundboard. It's always on stage. Usually it's by the drummer or the keyboard player. One way that they could run tracks, because what you don't want to do is like if the drummer's running them, you don't want like after the song, them to like reach over, try to find the mouse, and then like click on the song. So you could set up keyboard shortcuts. If you click this button that says key, anything that you see that turned orange can be mapped to a key on your computer keyboard. So I could say Glorious Day is 1, Great Things is 2, Battle Belongs is 3, and Revelation Song is 4. And now your drummer be like, hey, let's play song 2.
Intro.
And you just
2,
hit 2,
3,
and it's going to
4.
start song 2. Space bar stops the tracks. Button 3 starts song 3. So there's keyboard shortcuts, but you could also, let's just say the worship leader wants to run them. You could use, we developed a foot controller that you can put down by your feet for the worship leader to control all of your tracks. So this is called the Looptimist, and we have a this is the wireless version actually. I'm gonna plug it in though just for fun. You can turn it on, and you can map these buttons to the different songs by just clicking on MIDI, top right corner. And same way, anything that you see that turn blue can be mapped to a controller. So this would be song 1. All right, Great Things is song 2. Battle Belongs is song 3. Revelation Song is 4. And then I'm gonna make the global stop button up here. Stop. Like as an emergency kill switch or something. So I can press song 1. Hey everybody, stand up, welcome to church. And you can do this with your
Intro.
feet, your
2,
guitar
3,
player,
4.
and no one knows you even did it. Now, there are ways to set up in Ableton Live song sections, so you could have like verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, to be spontaneous with the song, like if you wanted to jump around to a different song section. But that gets a lot more advanced in Ableton Live. Now, if you really, I would say if you're really like, I want to do that, like I want to be very spontaneous with tracks, I would honestly recommend that you look at our mobile app, because that's developed to be very spontaneous by just tapping on a section and it goes to it. If you want to be spontaneous in Ableton Live, it's going to take a lot of work. You're going to spend probably like 5 hours of your work week setting that up. It's possible, but I'll just say this before, just think about, as you're trying to decide what's best for your church, think about how spontaneous you actually are. Because I thought when I was using tracks like that, I was really spontaneous. I'm like, I want to be able to flow and do whatever I want. And then I realized I'm actually not that spontaneous. That really, I kind of play the song the same way that I did in rehearsal. And if I am spontaneous, it's at the very end of the song. The song's over, and I'm like, oh, let's just do another bridge. And you do the bridge, and it's over. I found that for me as a worship leader, I wasn't actually like mid-set, completely being like, let's go from verse 2 back to the intro or something, you know what I mean, like something totally different. So think about that. If you are like that, I would recommend using our app, Prime, which is actually on display at our booth. But if you want to just play through tracks, and you can customize them by taking them into this view and chopping them up, and then re-importing them in, then Ableton could be a good option for you. But those are the ways that you can control. If you are interested in controllers, you can go to our website and just look at Looptimist. We have a small one. This is like a little 3-button version that you could just map to be like start, stop, next song. So you can map it to anything you want. It could just be song 1, song 2, song 3. But that's a controller you could look at. Really simple. And then the Looptimist obviously is the bigger version, which I guess there's no pictures on here. There should be. Yeah, this is the wireless one. And gosh, there's a lot we can talk about what this controller can do. But a lot of worship leaders are just using it for like song 1, song 2, song 3 through 6. Or there's 20 pages, and each page has its own set of 6 buttons. So you could have a lot of songs that you're loading. Or you could have like song 1, intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus. Song 2, intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus. That's getting a little bit more geeky and nerdy. This is supposed to be an intro to Ableton Live class. But if you are interested in that kind of stuff, go to our YouTube channel because we have tons of videos that teach about that. But I wanted to give you just an intro on Ableton Live and how, like, if we're gonna lead worship, like, we're good to go here. Like, I would probably make sure those keys are right for what I want. But this is how most people are running their tracks in a worship set. Now, a little pro tip, if you're going to use this, one thing I like doing is I created one file called my master set, or my master, I called it like master loops. And so instead of developing this every week for what songs I was doing, I have one file that has literally like 100 rows of all my songs, and I have them alphabetical. And I keep it all in one file so that then The only time I ever have to do work in this is when I'm bringing in a new song to our set, to our catalog. And then all I do on a Sunday morning is I literally just remap what songs we're doing to that controller. It saves a ton of time. Because everything we just spent, like warping and all that stuff, you only have to do that in one time. And forever after that, you just remap everything. Yes?
So a quick routing question. Would you route to front of house backup singing on the same channel, like channel 8 every time, and then if you didn't have backup singing, 8 would just be not be used
Correct.
that song?
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
So the front of house always knew where the backup
Yeah.
singing was?
Yeah. So you would always want to make sure, like, oh yeah, we always send electrics down on channel 3.
Right. Percussion separate than drums?
Yeah.
Can you, so you talked about that master list, is it able to copy all of your edits from that one master list and paste it into a different,
You could actually.
like, playlist? kind of?
Yeah, you could,
Okay.
if you didn't want to, like, yeah.
And then, if I had multiple weeks worth of services,
Yeah.
could I map one service to whatever we were doing? And then map the second service, just knowing whichever thing we were, that the mapping would make
Yeah,
sense?
you could do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
For those of us who are limited insurance budget.
Yeah.
And breakdown, when you run this master track, is there a lot of high system overhead on this?
Oh, system overhead? I would definitely keep your computer only Ableton Live if you're doing that. You should be fine though, especially if like any computer in the past 3 years would be fine. Yeah.
So all this that you did today, was this on the cheapest Ableton?
That was the cheapest version of Ableton. Yeah.
We use, I use Prime all the time to
Yeah.
build my set list. And one of the things that I do, we do a lot of customization to almost every song we play.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I'll actually record it and then throw it back into the cloud on
Yeah,
Prime so
yeah.
that I have the click and cues all lined up, right?
Yeah.
How would I do that on Ableton? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm asking? How do I get my cues? And would I still have to have a Prime membership to where I can keep adding to my library in Prime and then download the files off of Prime from my cloud and then upload them into, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's kinda
If you're trying to really edit
crazy.
the audio, you bring them into here,
You just-
edit them,
yeah.
re-export them,
Yeah.
upload them into your Prime Cloud account.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so much we can talk about. We ran out of time. I wish we could keep going. I have a class that I taught. If you go to abletoninworship.com, let's see if it's still live actually. It's been a while since I checked this. Oh no. Weird. Okay. I'll have to check on that. But there was a whole course. It's on YouTube for sure. If you search Matt McCoy Ableton Live, I've got a whole course that goes into like a beginner and advanced of this. I would encourage you to for sure check out our app, Prime, because really, we just learned that in like an hour, and it's doable. But I'm telling you that like we developed our own app because we were like, there has to be an easier way to do all this stuff. And so our mobile app, I would just encourage you to check it out. Just go to our booth even and look at it, and you'll kind of be like, wow, with one tap you can change the key of the song. No warping, none of that. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We have to go to a main session right now. I kept